So currently, if you were to go to Greece and see the Parthenon, you could see the main structure, but there's no sculpture left in the building, in the temple, or on the outside, where they would have been housed at the pediment. All of these sculptures currently are housed in the British Museum. So this helps us understand why some artwork ends up in other countries' hands, because there are people who go discover or excavate or have archaeological digs in these areas and then bring the treasures back home for themselves. So if you would like to see the Greek pediment sculpture, you would have to go to England. We also see at this time excavations in Pompeii and Herculaneum, which are in the south of Italy. And this drew lots of interest to Italy and the classics. So this is where we get the name for the current style of Neoclassicism, bringing back new classics from Italy and Greece. And this is Robert Adams' reproduction of the Etruscan room, and this is in the Victorian Albert Museum, used as a dining room currently. So with the Enlightenment making known all of these ancient Roman finds, this was a must-see for the cultured elite, for Europeans as well as Americans. So large numbers of tourists traveled the Grand Tour of Italy. It was so popular, this was a piece that you could take home as a souvenir. So Canaletto makes a living painting little souvenir paintings, and this is of the Grand Canal in Venice. Canaletto is able to make precise perspective drawings from the Renaissance with the aid of a camera obscura. This Grand Tour opened major sites in Europe, especially in Italy. There were maps that were published that listed all the major attractions for tourists to see on their Grand Tour. It was an essential part of a well-bred person's education. So this brings about lots of renewed interest in this area. This Grand Tour was not a thing of leisure for the artist, however. It was their education. It was essential, and you would travel with your teacher. And our own Jacques-Louis David is someone who did do this tour. And there was, among the Salon and the Royal Academy, there was a competition, and this was called the Prix de Rome. Now, every year, an artist would submit one of their finest pieces, and one artist would be selected to win the Prix de Rome. And then they would have an all-trip paid for to do the Grand Tour, to go and study the classics, to go and sketch. And this would not be just for you, it would also be with your teacher, and this would be a culmination of your study. So David enters the Prix de Rome 3 years in a row and loses. So he's got quite a grudge against the Salon. To show his frustration of losing 3 years in a row, David goes on a hunger strike, he considers suicide, and this definitely fuels his hate for the Academy. Finally, however, David wins in 1774. And him and his teacher are able to go 3 to 5 years in Rome to culminate his study. This was David's painting, Belisarius, that he entered and won the Prix de Rome with. It's based on a novel, and it had a huge impact. David leaves behind any Rococo tendencies for this new style of grand history painting in the neoclassical style. David gains a lot of experience in Italy, and he is drawn to the classics. He fills 12 sketchbooks that he and his studio use for the rest of his life. He is enormously influenced by his tour of Pompeii, by seeing all of the classics, Raphael, Caravaggio, Carracci, and he keeps these sketchbooks and uses them for later paintings. So you can definitely see how influenced he is by Rome, by Italy. Notice the rounded archway with the columns. This all feels very Italian. So hopefully this helps paint a better picture as to why we have a return to the classics. With the Grand Tour, with the findings of Pompeii and Herculaneum, with the bringing back of the Elgin marbles from Greece, we can understand why this fuels and influences the Neoclassicism movement in France. It's also a time where society is ready for change, and all of this does help fuel the French Revolution.